Story 1. They say if you press your ear to the wall of our bedroom at 3:17 a.m., you can still hear me screaming Tom's name. I know because I tried it last week. The wall screamed back. We found the house on a rainy October afternoon. A tall, skinny Victorian on Dearborn Street, freshly painted dove gray with black trim, like it was trying to look innocent. The realtor called it a rare gem in the city. Tom called it perfect. I just liked how the stained glass windows turned the light purple. We signed the papers the same day. Young, stupid, and in love. That's what we were. The first night, we christened every room with laughter and cheap wine. Around 2 a.m, half asleep, I heard it. Soft voices, like people talking behind a closed door. I thought it was the neighbors. Tom mumbled something about old pipes and pulled me closer. I let it go. By the third night, the voices weren't behind any door. They were inside the walls. They started as whispers you could almost ignore, the way you ignore a TV left on in another apartment. But then they said my name. Soft, curious, like a child testing how it tasted. Sarah! Tom heard them too. He sat up in bed, eyes wide. Did you? I nodded. We laughed it off. Nervous giggles that didn't reach our eyes. A week later, the whispers knew things. They repeated the fight we'd had the night before, word for word, about Tom working late again. They whispered the secret I'd never told anyone, not even him. When I was 9, I stole $20 from my mother's purse and blamed my little brother. I woke up drenched in sweat while the walls murmured, "Liar, liar." Tom started sleeping with headphones. I started sleeping with the lights on. One Saturday, we decided to paint the living room a warm cream, something cheerful to drown the gray days. Tom rolled the steamer over the old wallpaper, layers of roses, stripes, tiny faded sailboats, and the paper peeled away in long, wet strips. Underneath, someone had carved words into the plaster with something sharp. Deep, angry grooves. "She knows what you did." Tom's face went white. He looked at me like I was a stranger. "Sarah, what is this?" "I don't know," my voice cracked. "It's not about me." But the whispers laughed, a dry, papery sound that came from everywhere and nowhere. That night, the walls didn't whisper. They chanted. My name, over and over, rising and falling like a hymn in a dead language. Sar-ah, sar-ah, sar-ah. The sound pressed against my skull until I thought it would split open. Tom stumbled out of bed and down the stairs. I found him in the kitchen, hands over his ears, rocking. "They won't stop," he kept saying. "They know everything." I Googled the address at 4 a.m. while he stared at nothing. The house used to be St. Dymphna's home for the mentally infirm, 1892-1941. They ran out of money and space, so they started restructuring. Patients who were too loud, too violent, or simply inconvenient were sedated, carried to the basement, and bricked into the walls alive. The city covered it up. The building was sold, renovated, sold again. Our beautiful townhouse was built on screaming. Tom disappeared the next morning. I woke up alone. His side of the bed was cold. I called his name until my throat bled. The whispers answered in his voice, raw and terrified. "Sarah, help. It's dark." I tore through the house, every room empty. I ended up in the basement, a place we'd never bothered to unpack. The brick down there looked older, softer, patched in places. When I pressed my palm to it, it was warm, and it pulsed. That's when the screaming started for real. Tom's screaming, coming from inside the wall. Not recorded, not an echo. Live. He was begging, clawing, suffocating on the other side of the bricks. I pounded with a hammer until my hands blistered, but the wall only drank the sound. The whispers haven't said my name in 3 days. Now they use his voice. They tell me how good the dark feels, how peaceful. They invite me to join him. Sometimes they sound so kind. Last night the chanting came back, but softer, almost loving. This morning I bought bricks and mortar. The hardware store clerk asked if I was doing a little renovation. I smiled and said yes. If you ever walk past the gray Victorian on Dearborn, the one with the purple windows, stop for a second. Put your ear to the brick. You might hear two voices now. We're waiting. Story 2. They say the brownstone on West 87th still has a for sale sign out front, even though nobody's lived there since 2022. Realtors won't go inside anymore. They just stand on the sidewalk and hand you the keys through the gate. I know, because I still have mine. And every night at 3:03, my phone buzzes with a delivery notification I never ordered. We moved in on a perfect June morning. Me, Lisa, Emma, and little Jack. 4 bedrooms, original crown molding, a backyard the size of a postage stamp, but still a backyard in Manhattan. The agent, a nervous woman with too much lipstick, rushed us past the basement door. "Storage," she said, waving her hand like it smelled bad. "Nothing down there you'll need." The first day was boxes and pizza and the kids running up and down the stairs like it was Disneyland. That night, while Lisa and I collapsed on the couch, Emma came padding out of her room. "Daddy, something's scratching under my floor." Jack was right behind her. "It sounds hungry." I laughed it off. Rats, maybe. Old houses have rats. I promised to set traps tomorrow, but the scratching followed us. Soft at first, like fingernails testing wood. Then harder, like someone dragging a chair across the ceiling of the world below us. 2 nights later, I went down with a flashlight and a crowbar. The basement smelled damp and sweet, like old soup left out. In the far corner was a door I swear hadn't been there before. Heavy wood, new padlock. The key ring the agent gave us had one key I'd never used. It fit. Inside was a room. Not a closet-sized, a real room. A mattress on the floor, still dented like someone had just gotten up. Empty ramen cups, a hot plate, a stack of our Amazon packages, opened, contents gone. On the wall, dozens of tiny drilled holes looking straight up into our bedrooms, our bathroom, our lives. Lisa whispered, "Mike, the bed is warm." We called the police. They came, shrugged, said they'd patrol more. We changed the locks, installed cameras, slept with the lights on. It didn't matter. Things started disappearing. Emma's stuffed giraffe, Jack's inhaler, my wedding ring from the nightstand. The cameras caught him at 2:14 a.m., tall, thin, naked, except for filthy boxer shorts, moving like a spider that learned to walk upright. He'd stare straight into the lens and smile with too many teeth. We stopped drinking the tap water after Jack got sick. Just a sip at dinner, and he was vomiting black within the hour. The hospital said, rat poison, enough to kill a horse. We found the rest dissolved in the pipes. That's when the power went out. City block was fine, just our house, dark as a grave. We huddled in the living room with flashlights and the baseball bat. The footsteps started overhead, heavy, slow, enjoying themselves. Then more footsteps, lighter ones, bare feet, a lot of them, coming from every direction. Emma screamed first. Something long and pale dropped from the hallway ceiling vent and landed like a sack. Another followed, and another. Gaunt people, skin gray, eyes huge and wet, crawling out of places people shouldn't fit. The squatter had friends, a whole family of them living in the walls, the crawl spaces, the forgotten shafts between floors. They'd been watching us choose bedrooms, watching us sleep, waiting for us to get hungry together. Lisa grabbed the kids and ran for the front door. It wouldn't open. Deadbolt turned, but the door didn't budge, like the frame had swollen overnight. Windows, too. We were sealed in with them. They didn't rush. They played. Hide and seek the way cats play with mice. One would stand in the doorway and giggle while another dragged nails down the hallway walls. Jack's inhaler appeared on the kitchen counter, empty. Emma's giraffe hung from the chandelier, stuffing pulled out like guts. I swung the bat until my arms gave out. I connected a few times, felt bones snap like dry twigs, but there were always more. The last thing I remember is Lisa shoving the kids into the pantry and slamming the door. She looked at me with eyes already dead and said, "Keep them quiet." Then fingers, cold, too many fingers, closed around my throat from behind. Sometimes I still hear the kids calling Daddy from inside the walls. Sometimes I hear Lisa begging them to stop. And sometimes late at night, the doorbell rings. It's always another Amazon package I didn't order. Inside is always something small, a child's shoe, a lock of brown hair, my wedding ring, scratched and warm. The brownstone is still for sale. The agent will hand you the keys through the gate. Don't take them, they're not for the house. They're for the pantry door. Story 3. They say if you scratch an itch long enough, it starts scratching back. I learned that the hard way. Now every time I look in the mirror, I see words forming under my skin, begging me to dig deeper. We moved into the condo on a sunny LA afternoon in July. Me, Carla, stepmom to Mia and Lucas, Ben, my husband, and the kids. Mia at 16, all attitude and earbuds. Lucas at 14, glued to his video games. The place was a dream, 30th floor in a sleek high-rise downtown with views of the smoggy skyline and a pool on the roof. Ben got a promotion. We deserved the upgrade from our cramped suburb house. "Fresh start," he said, hugging me tight. The first week was bliss, unpacking, beach trips, late-night movies. But then the itches started. It began with Mia. She woke up scratching her arm, red dots like mosquito bites. "Probably allergies," I said, slathering on cream. By dinner, Lucas had them too, tiny welts on his legs. Ben dismissed it. City bugs. I felt them that night, prickling my back like needles under the sheets. We called exterminators the next day. 2 guys in jumpsuits poked around with flashlights, sprayed fog that smelled like chemicals and regret. "No bed bugs," they said. "No nothing. Place is clean." But the bites got worse. They swelled into angry red lines, hot to the touch. Mia screamed in the bathroom one morning. On her forearm, the welts twisted into letters LEAVE. Lucas found the same on his thigh. Ben laughed it off as coincidence, veins pulsing or something. But I saw it on my stomach, jagged like a child's scrawl. We joked nervously over breakfast, but nobody ate. Ben dug online that night. Forums, old articles. The building? Built in 1982 over Potter's Field, an unmarked cemetery for the poor and forgotten. Hundreds buried there in the 1800s, graves bulldozed for progress, protests, but money won. Urban legend, Ben muttered. But the itches whispered otherwise. The bites moved, crawled under our skin like living things. Mia clawed at her neck until it bled. Lucas stayed up nights, staring at vents like they were eyes. Exterminators came back. Nothing. Doctors prescribed ointments. Useless. We slept in shifts, scratching, always scratching. Then Lucas broke. It was 2 a.m. I heard him gasp from his room, rushed in. He was rigid on the bed, eyes wide, mouth frozen open. From the air vents, shadows poured out. Not bugs. Tiny writhing things, microscopic wisps, black as ink, swarming like smoke with purpose. Thousands. They funneled into his nostrils, his ears, his staring eyes. He jerked once, then went still, skin bubbling where they burrowed. Ben yanked him up. Mia screamed. We dragged Lucas to the living room, barricaded doors with furniture. The shadows came anyway, seeping from cracks, under doors, through keyholes. They weren't insects, remnants, souls of the disturbed dead, shattered into particles, hungry for flesh to call home. I realized it as they nipped at my ankles. They fed on fear. Our panic made them stronger, multiplying like cancer. Mia hyperventilated. Welts bloomed across her chest. S-T-A-Y. Lucas wheezed, eyes bloodshot, whispering, "They're inside." Talking. Ben grabbed matches. We burn it out. We doused curtains in lighter fluid from the grill, smashed windows for air. but the shadows thickened, coiling around our legs. Mia lit the first flame. Fire roared up walls. Alarms wailed. Sprinklers hissed but couldn't quench. We fled downstairs, smoke choking us, shadows clinging like burrs. Outside, fire trucks screamed in. Paramedics checked us, scratches, burns, but alive. The condo gutted. We crashed at a motel. That night, the itches returned, deeper. Mia woke, clawing her face, words etched inside her eyelids when she blinked. Lucas coughed black specks into the sink. Ben stared at his hands, veins pulsing Forever. They're in us now. Burrowed. We tried hospitals. MRIs show nothing. Therapists say trauma, but I feel them shifting, spelling secrets. Names of the dead, pleas from graves. They follow wherever we go. Motels, friends' couches, even a cabin upstate. Scratch, and they answer. Last week, Mia vanished into the bathroom for hours, emerged with HOME carved bloody on her arm. Lucas smiles too wide now, eyes empty. Ben whispers to walls, "Me, I itch everywhere," words rising, YOURTURN. If you ever move to LA, skip the high-rises, and if you feel that first prick, run. But you can't. They're already waiting, under your skin. Story 4. They say if you smash a mirror, you get 7 years of bad luck. But if you look into this one, you get eternity. I know, because Jordan's still screaming inside the shards I keep in my pocket. Sometimes when it's quiet, I take one out and listen. We bought the loft on a foggy August morning in San Francisco's Mission District. Me, Alex, and my new wife Jordan, fresh from our Vegas wedding, buzzing with that honeymoon glow. The place was modern, exposed brick, high ceilings, big windows overlooking taquerias and street art. The previous owner left some antiques behind. Gifts, the realtor said. We loved it, especially the huge ornate mirror in the master bedroom, gold frame carved with weird symbols, like vines twisting into faces. That first night, we laughed about how it made the room feel bigger. Jordan posed in front of it, blowing kisses. But when I glanced over, her reflection didn't match. Her face looked off, pale, with shadows under her eyes like bruises. I blinked, and it was gone. Trick of the light, I said, pulling her into bed. A few nights later, it got worse. I'd wake up sweating, stare into the mirror from the bed. Jordan's reflection decayed right before my eyes, skin sagging, eyes sinking into black holes, teeth yellowing like old bone. Shadows in the glass moved on their own, slithering across the frame. Jordan saw it too once, my shadow reaching out, fingers like claws. We joked about jet lag, bad burritos. But sleep came harder after that. Then Jordan cut herself. It was a stupid accident, slicing onions for stir-fry, knife slipped, deep gash on her finger. She yelped, wrapped it in a towel. We laughed it off, but when she checked in the mirror, her reflection's wound changed. It swelled instantly, skin turning green-black, pus oozing, spreading up her arm like gangrene in fast forward. In real life, it was just a clean cut. In the glass, she rotted alive. That scared us straight. No more dismissing. Jordan bandaged up while I hit the internet. Old forums, auction records. The mirror belonged to Elias Crow, a 19th century occultist from the Gold Rush era. He dabbled in black magic, trapping souls in mirrors to steal their life force, extending his own. Died at 112, they said, but his body vanished. The mirror passed through estates, always with stories, suicides, madness. One owner swore it ate his wife. We covered it with a sheet that night, planned to sell it tomorrow. But the storm hit, thunder shaking the building, rain lashing windows like fists. Power flickered. Around midnight, a crash from the bedroom. We rushed in, the sheet on the floor, mirror shattered into 100 pieces, glass everywhere. No wind, no quake. It broke on its own. Then the figures came. Misty shapes oozing from the shards. Pale, Twisted people with hollow eyes, mouths stretched in silent screams. They swirled like smoke, then slammed into us. I felt it. Cold fingers in my chest, twisting my thoughts. Jordan gasped, eyes rolling back. Suddenly, I wasn't me. My hands moved without permission, grabbing a shard like a knife. Jordan, or whatever possessed her, lunged at me with nails extended. We reenacted his rituals. I saw flashes, crow's memories, slitting throats in candlelight, chanting words that burned my tongue. My body forced Jordan against the wall, shard to her neck. She fought, but her possessed self laughed, a gurgling sound not hers. More life, it hissed. We danced a deadly waltz, bodies puppeted, slashing air, drawing blood. I broke free for a second, willpower, love, whatever. Grabbed the biggest shard and smashed it on the floor. The figures howled, pulling back. But as each piece broke, Jordan's reflection splintered too. In every fragment, a piece of her. Her eye blinking in terror, her mouth screaming silently, her hand clawing at glass from inside. She faded then. Her real body slumped, eyes vacant. The spirits retreated into the shards, dragging her soul with them. I gathered the pieces, sobbing, but her fragments screamed eternally, tiny, tinny wails from each one. I fled the loft that night. Cops called it a break-in, Jordan missing. But I know. I keep the shards in a box now, but sometimes I pocket one. Her voice begs, "Alex, out, please." Last week I cut myself shaving. Looked in a new mirror. The wound festered in the reflection. Gangrene spreading. They're hungry again. If you find an ornate mirror in a mission loft, don't look, but you will, and she'll whisper your name next. Story 5. They say old phones never really die. They just wait for the right voice to pick up. I still have ours in the drawer, unplugged. But sometimes at 3:33 a.m., it rings anyway. And when I answer, it's Victor, whispering my name from tomorrow. We moved into the row house on Pine Street in Philadelphia last spring. Me, Elena, and my husband Victor, both retired, finally free to spoil our grandkids rotten. The place was cozy, creaky floors, a tiny garden out back, and that old landline in the kitchen we kept for nostalgia. "Closer to family," Victor said, kissing my cheek as we unpacked photo albums. The grandkids lived just a subway ride away. Life felt sweet. The calls started on day 3. The phone would ring, shrill, insistent, no caller ID, just unknown. We'd pick up, and static crackled like frying bacon. Then nothing. Hang up, and it'd ring again 5 minutes later. "Pranksters," Victor grumbled, yanking the cord. But it kept ringing, even unplugged once. We laughed it off as crossed wires. By the end of the week, the calls changed. We'd answer and hear us. Echoes of conversations from hours earlier. My voice saying, "Pass the salt, dear." But distorted, stretched like taffy, laced with faint screams in the background. Victor's laugh replying, but undercut by a wail that wasn't ours. We'd stare at each other, hearts pounding. "Recording?" I whispered. He shook his head. We stopped answering after that. Victor couldn't let it go. He's always been the fixer, plumber, electrician, you name it. One afternoon, he traced the wires, up the walls, through the ceiling, into the attic. I held the ladder while he poked around up there, flashlight beam dancing. "Elena," he called down, voice muffled. "Come see this." I climbed up, dust tickling my nose. There, bolted to the rafters, was an ancient switchboard, like something from a museum. Dozens of ports, wires snaking into the wood, connected to nothing. No outlet, no line out. Victor fiddled with it, but it hummed faintly, like it was alive. "This shouldn't be here," he muttered. We left it, but that night the phone rang louder. The predictions started small. One evening it rang. I answered against my better judgment. Static, then my own voice. "Watch the stairs, Victor. Slippery." Distorted, screaming undertones. Minutes later, I slipped on the top step, tumbling down, bruising my hip bad. Victor rushed over, pale. How? We unplugged everything, smashed the phone with a hammer, bought a new one. But the calls came back. Victor's voice predicting his burnt toast catching fire, which it did, scorching the counter. My voice warning of a cut finger while chopping veggies, blood everywhere seconds after. The screams and the echoes grew clearer, like people begging. Victor dug deeper. Late nights on his laptop, old city records. Turns out, our house was a Cold War hub in the 50s, a spy ring safe house. Agents holed up here, running secret lines. When they got caught, interrogators used the switchboard for torture. Electrified wires, shocks through the phones to make them talk. Dozens died, bodies hidden in the walls. The place was sealed, forgotten, renovated over the years. But the lines? They lingered, echoing pain across time. We planned to move, booked a hotel, packed bags. But that last night, the phone exploded with rings, non-stop, vibrating the table. I answered, trembling. Static roared, then Victor's voice. Elena, help, it burns, pulling me in. Screams swallowed the words, not an echo from before, from ahead. I dropped the receiver and ran to the basement, Victor's workshop. The door was ajar, lights flickering. Inside, he lay on the floor, face blue, eyes bulging. A phone wire, thick, black, snaking from the wall, wrapped around his neck like a noose. It tightened as I watched, pulling him toward a crack in the foundation, bricks crumbling like they were hungry. Sparks jumped from the wire, his body jerking with shocks. "Victor!" I screamed, grabbing his hands. But the wire hummed, alive, dragging him inch by inch into the wall. His fingers slipped from mine, nails scratching concrete. The wall swallowed him whole, bricks sealing seamless, like he'd never been. I fled to the grandkids that night. Police called it a freak accident, bad wiring, but the calls follow me. Here in this new apartment, the phone rings at odd hours. Victor's voice begging from the future, predicting my falls, my pains. Last night, it was my voice on the line. Elena, it's time. Join us. The wire in the wall is humming now. If your phone rings unknown, don't answer. It might be you, calling from tomorrow. Story 6. You know that feeling when someone mimics your every move? It's funny at first. Then, slowly, it starts to rot your nerves. I thought I was imagining things the first night it happened, but now I know better. They weren't reflections. They were waiting. When Sophie and I moved into the Back Bay apartment, everything seemed perfectly normal. After a messy divorce, I just wanted peace, a small, safe home where my daughter could sleep without waking up to fights. The realtor told me the place was old but full of charm. I didn't realize that charm could decay into something sinister. The first few days were fine. The neighbors were kind, especially Mrs. Keller from next door, an elderly woman with trembling hands and foggy eyes, always smiling too politely. "You'll love it here," she said, watching Sophie a little too long. "The building remembers happy families." That night, I stood by the tall living room window, staring at the golden lights flickering in the apartments across the street. Then I noticed something unsettling. In one of the windows, directly opposite ours, stood a woman and a small girl, both still as statues. I squinted, a cold shiver creeping up my spine. They looked just like us. The woman's hair, her build, even the tilt of the head. I turned to call Sophie, and when I looked back, the woman had moved the same way I did. Perfectly. I forced a laugh. Just a trick of the glass, I told myself. Boston buildings were old. The old ones had warped windows. Reflections bounced strangely. But when Sophie joined me and waved at the figures, the girl across the street lifted her small hand at the exact same second, the same angle, the same shy smile. "Mommy, they look like us," Sophie said, giggling. "Maybe they're new friends." I told her it was bedtime. But I didn't sleep. At 3 a.m., I woke to the sound of creaking wood and the whisper of movement. The apartment felt charged. My phone's screen flickered, light bulbs dimmed, and from the window, faint figures blurred behind the glass of the building opposite. I shut the curtains tight. The next morning, Mrs. Keller was in the hallway again, eyes wide this time. "They shouldn't be seen," she muttered when I mentioned the figures. "The walls here, thin as paper. The city's fields pull them close sometimes." I tried to laugh it off. "You mean ghosts?" She shook her head. "Not ghosts, echoes, leaking through." That night, things got worse. I was making dinner when Sophie froze by the window again. "Mommy," she whispered. "They're inside." Her voice was steady, but her face was pale. The window across the street was dark now, but inside our own, faint shadows twisted behind the reflection, moving even though we stood still. Then the kitchen door creaked open by itself, slow and deliberate. I grabbed a knife and told Sophie to stay behind me. Footsteps, wet, bare, sticking to the wood floor, trail after trail leading down the hallway, straight to her room. My hands trembled as I followed the footprints. They gleamed faintly, as if glowing from somewhere unseen. The air throbbed with quiet static. Every light flickered in sync, every hum of electricity louder than my heartbeat. I pushed the door open. Sophie was sitting on her bed, but there was another shape beside her, nearly identical. Its skin shimmered like smoke, shifting between solid and transparent. When it turned, its eyes were darker than human eyes should ever be. "Mommy," both said, at the same time. The same voice, same pitch. I screamed and swung the knife. The shadow collapsed into smoke, only to reform near the window, slipping half through the wall as if the plaster were liquid. I grabbed Sophie and ran. Behind me, whispers rose, not from one mouth but from many, an overlapping chorus that said my name again and again. Somehow, I got the idea that mirrors or lights made it stronger, each reflection another doorway. I smashed the bathroom mirror first, then the hall light. The flickering stopped for a moment. Silence. I heard crying behind me, Sophie's voice. But when I turned, she was smiling, too calmly. "Mommy," she said softly, tilting her head the way the shadow did. "It's easier now. She taught me how. Do you want to see what I learned?" Her eyes shimmered black. I stumbled backward, knocking over the lamp. The room fell into darkness, thick and smothering. I could hear her giggle. Or was it the other ones? My arms reached out blindly until something small and warm clung to my waist. "Mommy," she whispered, right beside my ear. "You don't have to be scared. She's not taking me. She's taking you, because you have the brighter soul." I couldn't breathe. Her little hands were too cold. I smashed another light bulb with my elbow. Sparks burst, then total darkness swallowed us. In that blackness, I hugged her tight, trembling. Her hair smelled like Sophie's shampoo. Her heartbeat fluttered like Sophie's would. But when she raised her head, her voice wasn't Sophie's anymore. "Do you know how hard it is," she whispered, "to live behind the glass? To watch your life on repeat while you rot in reflection? The walls are thinning, Rachel. Soon all of us will cross through." Then she smiled, teeth too sharp under the faint flicker of lightning outside. When the lights came back, she was still there. My daughter's body, her eyes shining like oil. And I keep hugging her every night. Because I don't know if letting go will bring back my real Sophie, or end everything that's left of me. For more stories like this, share and subscribe Goofy Horror.